Okay, now I will start sharing the screen and let's see, share screen.
Good to have you on board, Eve.
Oh, thank you, Cyril. That's my father's name.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm on it then, aren't I?
Okay, how China is able to provide enough food to feed its 1 billion people. Well, this information is gathered from a Quora. Is that the forum which people can ask questions?
Right.
Okay. And I will provide all the links for the Google map. So
Yes.
the maps there provide us with a method of looking onto China. So we are using Google Maps.
Yes.
So these are the locations. I will put down the locations there. So if you want, then I will send out the PowerPoint presentation to anybody. Then you can copy and paste, and then you go to Google Map, and you would be able to see something like this. So this is the location 1. So what is this? Horizontal stretches of things.
Are they small farms?
Yep, they are small farms, correct. Okay, so let's zoom in. Too far away, we don't know. Okay, so let's zoom in. Okay, still too far away. Let's zoom in again. Oh. Now, what is this? This is the white thing here are houses.
Yes.
And these are cages floating on the surface of the sea.
All right.
So these things stretches across the whole eastern seaboard of China for thousands of miles. So this is another location. Okay, let's zoom in. This is a Chinese seafood farm. So you see a little tiny house surrounded by cages.
Yes.
The cages are usually made up of previously were bamboos. Nowadays they are changing them into plastic pipes. And underneath it, of course, is the nets, and the fish is grown in these little ponds in the sea. Well, not only in the sea, actually any water surface, rivers, reservoirs, lakes, etc. They always grow their food there. Now, this is some statistics. The global demand for seafood is about 143 million tons per year. China consumed about 45%. That is 65 million tons, followed by Europeans, Japan, etc., etc. But how much? The interesting is how much is China produce actually? Among the 65 million tons of seafood consumed in China, only 15 million tons are caught in the wild. The rest, 50 million tons, are all raised by this aquaculture. So compare that with Japanese, 90% of their seafood consumption is wild catch. Wow. So China is growing its own seafood. Yeah. This is a typical New Year's Eve family gathering. Okay, New Year's Eve, we eat the best. Yes. Look at it. We have shell. We have shrimps in eggs. Over there, we have misos. We have at least 2 types of fish. One steam here, another is deep fry. So Chinese do eat a lot of seafood, and also a very large variety as well. Yes. Now, well, I have a little video to show you.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, back in Ningbo. Annie's here, and things are falling into the normal Chinese routine. One of which is eating very exotic Chinese foods. Now this is what type of eating is this?
I don't know.
You never had anything like this before?
Oh my god, how can we finish this? 快丢单那个！怎么办？我要再
shrimp jumping around.
直接举个票菜色的，我就问你，我今个举没几票都在一个当年的。
Hungry?
谢谢。把你今天搞哭啊？
能不能可乐先让我喝一点？
佢告白，佢冇想告白。
对，跟我是跟什么谁都和你们饭量。
慢慢吃，不急嘛。
还是小菜。
你又回家润？
来我进来啊，这是来。
不是来我这里，他明天回去了，整东西去。然后怎么表出门之前才说的，说转转发给我。
They steam it at the table. That's good.
我想还给可乐我一点。
So there is a whole table of seafood here,
喝一点点，打个嗝出来嘛。
and they are still alive.
不让我吃，不让我吃个OK， 盖吧。哇，好大个锅盖哦。UFO。
So they put on a cover, and then steam start coming.
So you've never seen anything like this before?
First time.
Is this a Ningbo thing or is this?
I don't know. Nowadays popular.
Oh yeah.
Now I
So
think
the
this
whole
gentleman is
bottom part
the
here cooks.
married a
steams
Chinese
everything
wife,
that we
and they
saw.
come and join a family gathering, and this is the first time they ever see something like this.
Get the steam.
Okay, it is now going to open it.
All right. Such a lot of food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for us. We can't eat it anyway, so it's better stop here. Okay, location 2. We look at another place. Okay. Here. What is this? Okay, so let's again zoom in. Now we look. We have something like this all round stuff.
Yes.
And this is obvious the field, so we are more interested in this thing. What are these? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, instead of growing just rice, Chinese actually grow a lot of water food. Okay, what's that mean? Okay, we have fish ponds. You have seen it already, so something else. We have a fish pond here, and mulberry tree,
Yes.
silkworms.
Yeah.
So this is a complete cycle.
Yes.
The leaves of the mulberry tree is fed to the silkworms. The silkworm make a cocoon, and the silk from the cocoon obviously make silk. Okay, make cloths, silk cloths. But the larva inside is fed to the fish.
Oh, good.
Of course, some are eaten by human, but as a silkworm farm, you can't eat that much larva. So a lot of them is actually fed to the fish. Every autumn, they dry out the ponds, pump the water out, catch the fish, and then obviously eat them. And
Yes.
the mud or the last year's whole year's excretion from the fish is actually moved up to become fertilizer for the mulberry tree.
Right.
So it is a complete cycle.
Yes.
The mulberry tree is fertilized by the excretion of the fish. Obviously, the fish being eaten by humans, but the fish is fed by larvae from the silkworms, which eat the leaves of the mulberry tree. Now, this cycle has been operating for hundreds of years, if not thousands. So, over 2,000 years, Chinese have developed this sophisticated, sustainable aquaculture ecosystem.
So when they put new water in, do they put small fish in?
Yeah, when they put new water in, they put in small fish, and that will be harvested by autumn.
Obviously, a lot of this is geographically based.
Yes, they are
depending
based
on where
you
live,
near
you would
the Yangtze River.
Right.
The Yangtze.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. At the branches of the Yangtze River.
One,
We show you the coordinates in location too, so you can check it out later on if you like. So
I
this,
mean, obviously, places that are near the sea would rely on food or fish from the sea.
yeah,
And the places that are near rivers would rely on
freshwater fish.
yeah.
So these
Of
are
course, on a completely personal basis, there are a lot of the fish that were shown in that video that I would not eat. They're not kosher.
okay, but Chinese eat
we-
anything.
We won't eat fish, just as we don't eat animals which don't have a cleaning mechanism, that is, animals that don't chew the cud or animals that don't have a cloven hoof. When it comes to fish, we won't eat what is normally called seafood. That is animals which don't have scales
Okay,
or animals which don't have a fin, both of which are cleaning mechanisms.
okay. But anyway, the
But
Chinese
that,
do have a combination of fish ponds, mud ponds for shrimps, and other seafood, etc. So these are ecosystems that Chinese use.
With the flooding at the moment, would that flood out all these small operations?
Yeah, I think a lot of small operations are in big trouble today. I think I will do a presentation on this year's flood later on.
Yep.
Okay, so to raise more fish, you need aerator to pump air into the water. So this is new advantage now. With more technology, now we are able to use the electrical aerators to aerate the ponds. So
Oh,
these are the ponds you zoom in. Now the main river is that right there, okay? On the top here, that's the main river. And the bulk of the image here are the ponds, of course, with roads in between. And all the greenery around the ponds are the mulberry trees. And the pond itself, we have a little one here which is on, and so we see the waters being aerated. In fact, here, this is the little pond here. For this pond is somewhere here. For this point, we see two here, etc. So all this point is now also aerated by electric pumps to enable them to grow more fish.
do the community own them, or are they each individuals? It looks as though there'd have to be a lot of cooperation.
Yeah, they are co-ops. Most of them are co-ops. That means as a family, they look after one pond and the trees around it. But all their produce are being processed in a co-op, which is owned collectively by the families.
Right. Thanks.
And nowadays they started also putting solar panels in the fish ponds.
Good.
Now these are still fish ponds, but we see rows of solar panels because selling electricity is better than growing silkworms these days. So
All right. Yes.
some of them is converted into selling electricity. Less work anyway.
Yes.
But underneath the solar panel is still the fish ponds. The fish ponds now host almost 9% of China's solar energy panels.
Wow.
That's from Bloomberg. Okay, this is
Oh, yeah.
a screen capture. You see, there are still ponds which are not converted into solar panel yet. So in this, on the left side of the picture, we still see that structure, but on the other side, it is now much more into solar panel. Obviously, solar panels provide more profit.
And the mulberry trees gone under the solar panel area?
I think so. I think so. So there will be a balance later on where after a certain while the silk production price as less people is producing silk, the silk prices will rise, and therefore this remaining will have their niche market.
Yes.
I think there will be a balance somewhere in the future. China dominated the world's production of silk, 84%, and freshwater production 66%, and solar generation 25% of the world. So these are the Chinese statistics. But another way of using the pond is growing lotus roots and fish. So you can raise other kind of vegetables in the ponds. One of them is lotus root. China produces 11 million tons of it, and it consumes 90% of that, and exports 60% of the world need of lotus root, which is exported to Korea, Japan, and Vietnam, because again, lotus root need a warm climate. Here is an example of the lotus. So the workers get into the pond and dug up the lotus roots.
Are they tasty, or are they just a plain taste like the water chestnuts?
They're great.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah, they are. They're lovely. Yeah.
They are lovely. Yeah. They are not very tasty. More like chestnut, but they are crunchy.
Yes.
So this is one of the lotus root dishes.
And
That would be good.
you put chili and stuff on them, and they taste good.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of chili. I can see a lot of chili on these in the illustration.
Yeah.
And as you say, that is good.
Yeah. Albert have tried it.
On the previous system of growing the fish
Yep.
with the silkworms and mulberry trees, then the solar panels on top, that's changing the sunlight coming down to the fish. How does that alter the fish longer term, the production of fish, the taste of the fish?
Now
the quality.
the solar panel, this one is now very tightly together, but I'm seeing some changes in that the solar panel is not covering the whole surface. I think they cover about 60% and leave 40% for sunlight, so that to allow the mulberry trees around them still feed by the thing from the solar panel. So it's going into a hybrid. The photo we are seeing at the moment is more the beginning phase where a lot of people converted into solar panel ponds. But later on, they found that this is no good for food, for fish. So
that sounds a better mix.
and then
And
they
is some of that power going into the main grid? Is
yeah,
it?
and
Yeah.
then they are now reverting some of them back into a lower density solar panel points.
You partly answered the question I was going to ask. Different farmers have control over different fields in that, some farmers have converted, some have not converted yet. That be correct?
Yep. They are every point and the surrounding area belongs to one family usually.
Oh, right.
So that is up to that family to whether they choose to do it that way or that way.
Right.
And obviously, when we look at those with solar panels, they look like to be larger points. So they may have 2 or 3 families having the points together and say, well, we convert to solar panels, then we take it up, join it together. So they will work out shares like that. But what I understand is some of them are now reverting back and say, we don't want that density.
But what we're looking at here would be multifarious family blocks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So and all these families also as a collection of the village, they have a co-op.
Yes.
And therefore the co-op will introduce the idea up to the family to choose whether I go solar or not. And then some choose to go, and then they have to amalgam together to get a better size in order to put in the. So for the smaller ones, they are not willing to merge with their neighbors, and therefore they will remain in their own state.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. This is the lotus root, which is very tasty. And if we were running this face to face, I probably will bring some for everybody to try. But unfortunately, we can't do it
That's nice of you.
this year. Maybe next year we will go back to something like that. Okay, another option is producing oil, beef, fish, and crab all together. Now this is a location. Again, the location is available at a latitude and longitude. Okay, yeah. So it is in a Jiangsu province in Xinhua. Okay.
Jiangsu.
Yeah, Jiangsu. This is this is all yellow. These are flowers.
Is that north of Nanning or south of Nanning?
I think it's south of Nanning.
Okay.
South. Okay. So
Canola plants.
yeah, they rapeseed oil 20% of the global production, and with flowers comes the massive honey production. China produced 30% of the global honey production, and a lot of honey we bought actually is produced by China and we bottled by different countries. Of course, crabs. This is one of the most tasty crabs, and they are only available about now for about a month, and then they will be gone.
They look as though they're bound by leaves, not leaves, plants.
Yeah,
They're shredded.
These are the reeds near the sea, in the rivers.
Yeah.
And use them to bound the. This is the traditional way.
Yes.
Okay, another location. Now we are moving a little bit more north, 26 degrees north, in the Shandong province. So this is the Shandong province on the top. When you go to Google Map, let's zoom in. Oh, still can't see much. We see rows of
hot houses.
Yes, greenhouses or hot houses. Greenhouses. And what's worse, the Chinese government forced the farmer to install Internet of Things-based surveillance system in their greenhouse. Farmers are forced to be taught in a re-education camp to use their mobile phones to monitor the status of the greenhouse, including carbon dioxide, light strength, soil temperature, etc. According to the... Sorry?
I was going to say, you see those greenhouses everywhere in Guangxi and Henan and everywhere.
Yeah. The Chinese greenhouse is almost standardized. They have a certain structure, making it quite cheap to build in bulk, and they are very large.
Is that a rail system going through?
Yeah, in the middle is the rail. It should be the rail on bridges.
And most of them are rebuilt every year. They just on it, and they take them off, do the harvest, and then plant the new ones, and then they build a new greenhouse.
I think they are now having multi-years plastic frames instead of putting on every year. They are now moving into a more sustainable situation at the moment.
Yes.
Okay, in terms of vegetables and fruit production and consumption, China is about 700 million tons, which is about 40% of the world's consumption. Now compare that to India's 180 million tons. So China is about 3.8 times the amount of vegetable and fruit production, despite most of the population in India claim to be vegetarians. The secret, of course, is the greenhouse. China enjoys cheaper food. Garlic chive is one of our favorites, which is not listed. In terms of production, China is almost the number one in almost all kinds of vegetables, except those from the tropic regions. This is a very typical Chinese vegetable market. This is one seller. You see the kinds of different vegetables they sell. Usually at least 20 to 30 different kinds of vegetables. In terms of fruits, China is also tops the global chart in almost every kind except non-tropical fruit production, and usually outpacing the second place by a large margin. For example, watermelon. China produced 79 million tons, whereas Turkey only 3.9, which is the number 2. The world produced 111 tons. China produced almost 70% of it.
Wow.
That's 2016. Now, this is one of those typical Chinese greenhouse.
Oh, it's the bigger one, yeah.
They are usually very big and very long. And they are usually made up of these round steel pipes.
All right, yes.
Okay.
Albert.
Yep.
Albert, one time I was walking along the road and I saw some silver beets growing. And I said, oh, who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Can I buy some? And they said, you can't eat that. That's for the animals.
Oh,
And that's my favorite vegetable. And I hadn't had it for years.
Chinese have lots of different things to eat. Some of them they preserve it for the animals.
They consented and allowed me to eat some.
Okay, let's go to Tibet, Lhasa. Okay. Again, look at this. This is also greenhouses.
wow.
Zoom in. They built massive amount of greenhouse, so the people now go work in the greenhouse rather than go to the temple. So that makes Dalai Lama not very happy. Inside, they grow a lot of tomatoes.
Yes.
Okay, Xinjiang, another region. Xinjiang. Okay, now in the middle here, there's a yellow line. The yellow line is the boundary between Kyrgyzstan and China. So look at the part on the left, they are Kyrgyzstan. So they are very barren. But on the right, this is the Chinese side. They look much more green because Chinese do send in an army to do production. So this is the Kudala in the northern Xinjiang, while bordering Kazakhstan in that region. Okay, so we see there's green farms on one side and nothing on the other side. This is the zoom in. So it's
there are other places in the world where you get this. The Israeli-Egyptian border is the same.
Yeah.
You've got desert in
one
Egypt
side and then
and reforestation in Israel.
Yeah. It's something like that.
It's interesting to see that in other places.
Yeah. It's all about the political system here because this field is obviously in a very barren land, not very good. So the initial transforming the land into food production is a huge effort. So they send in the so-called Xinjiang Production and Construction Corporations. Now this is a military background corporations. They employ 2.6 million employees, and of course with other farmers from the locals, and they are a huge cooperation. You see some Chinese together with the local people, the Uyghurs, and they are teaching them, in this particular case, the drip irrigation system from Israel. They acknowledge that their irrigation system is learned from Israel. So you will see rows of plants there, and they are almost sand. The land is very sandy, like desert. So they use drip irrigations. There's black pipelines running along near the plants, like this. Drip irrigation.
Yes.
And they produce beautiful melons because they have very good sunshine, not much cloud daily, but very cold nights.
Yeah.
So good sunshine, cold nights produce very sweet melons.
This is, yeah.
And big.
And big, yes. And they're sweeter and tastier, and therefore they sell for higher price in the market in China and in the world, because people actually enjoy fruits from Xinjiang region. Okay,
Is watermelon still quite cheap?
About a quarter the price here.
Alright.
Oh, goodness.
We are Australian food is about 4 times as expensive in China. For example, we go to say any food court, we can have a lunch at around $12 Australian.
Yeah.
In China, you can have a lunch for about $12 renminbi.
Yeah, but it's just as expensive if you're earning your money there. Everybody always used to tell me you can buy things so cheap.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, but I'm not earning what you're earning either.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. The living standard is much lower there.
Hmm.
Okay, what is this red thing here? Any guess?
It's a plant that has red foliage.
Okay,
don't
let's
know.
zoom in. They are on concrete. So they are not on soil. Zoom
Alright.
in. They're on tables.
Oh,
And zoom in. Tomatoes.
Ah,
wow.
Sun-dried tomatoes.
Oh, yum.
Yum. The world's leading producer of tomatoes are China, United States, China. China
Goodness.
produces a lot of tomatoes, okay? Although tomatoes is introduced into China, but China do produce a lot of tomatoes.
Alright.
And it account for 19.1% of the global production. And they also produce a lot of grapes, but China sucks at producing wines from grapes.
Yeah.
They get their grapes, or until comparatively recently, they got their grapes from Australia. Now
No,
they're playing no talkies.
no. They have grapes for hundreds of years.
And they have those very, very big grapes.
Yeah, their grapes is different. Chinese doesn't use grapes to produce wine. Chinese use grains to produce wine.
Well, spirits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they produce spirit. Now, okay, these are the grape wines in Xinjiang. Again, it produced 19.1% of the grapes. Was double. Okay, sorry. Produced 56 million tons of tomatoes, dominated 1/3 of the world's tomato export, and over 40 million are all from Xinjiang province.
Wow.
Wow, I doubled the. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. I'm going backwards.
That's all right.
We don't mind.
Okay, rice, wheat, and corn.
Albert, it proves that you're human, because only humans make mistakes.
Yes. Rice, wheat, and corn. Now China had 1,086,000 square kilometers of arable land. India has about 50% more than China. Then come EU and US. US has 1,631,000 square kilometers of arable land. US has much larger arable land area than most everyone else. So that's why US is a large agriculture producer. But in terms of rice, of course, Chinese eat rice, so China produce more rice. In terms of wheat, China also produce more wheat than India, but less than EU, because Europeans eat wheat. In terms of corn, US is the largest producer. China comes in as a second, which is a large margin from the third and the fourth. So China is producing quite a bit of food.
Yes.
Okay, another location. This one go to Hubei.
Hebei.
Hebei is our plain. This is the flatlands, and we see all these dots among green areas. Okay, what are they? Well, the dots are villages and surrounded by the fields. So larger dogs obviously have more people, smaller dogs less people. These dogs, the smallest one about 500 people, the largest one about 1 million.
Are we looking at night?
No, this is daytime.
All right.
This would be a satellite image.
Yeah, the location is here. So if you go to Google Map, type in the location, you can see the same thing. And then zoom in. The green fields are farmlands. The white dots are villages. Smaller one, 500 people. Larger one, 10,000 to 100,000. Okay. Guangzhou. Okay, Guangzhou in
Oh,
Shenyang.
you didn't go to Henan.
Well, because the one who do that didn't go to Holland.
Oh.
Okay, this one. Again, a lot of web-like greenery. Okay, let's zoom in. In the river valleys, you see a lot of these green little plains. So they deliberately create flatlands in the river by building a very low dams. The dams is typically 1 meter tall, 2 meter tall, very low dam. And when all the water run off, they will bring in all the sooks from the mountain, and then eventually the dams will be filled with all this soil from the mountain, and they convert it into farmlands. And of course, the mountain themselves, they will make it into torrents. Is it rice?
Yes, yeah.
And for those top area, you see a large patch of green that they convert it back to forest. That means now what they're doing is at the mountain top, they will return it into a forest. In the hills of the mountains, they will make it into torrents. And then at the valleys, they flatten it out and to make little plains. More importantly, they are now starting to experiment growing rice in salty sea water.
Wow.
Now, this is the guy to look at. This old man.
Yes.
He spent 60 years developing a salt-tolerant rice crop. And he is inspecting his work. At the moment, he is, of course, retired, but he is still leading a research team to continue developing salt-tolerant rice.
That'd be good.
Can we go back to the last
This one?
image? Now,
Or the one before?
the old man.
The old man.
I'm looking at his shirt. Is that the same target that we know in Australia? The name Target on his shirt.
Yes, I don't know, maybe.
It's very similar, if there's nothing else.
Yeah,
Maybe.
that's amazing.
I was looking at it and I was just thinking, my older brother wears shirts like that.
Maybe. He's getting
Well,
a
it
cheap
could be a
shirt
present
from
someone
Target.
living out here is brought for someone they know back home.
Right, yes.
Maybe
yes,
I'd suggest,
yeah.
He is a fellow in the National Academy of Science.
What a good idea, because he'd extend the areas that they can grow rice.
Yes.
So
And actually,
dramatically.
the seawater rice is more nutritious
Right.
because the sea tolerant rice is able to get a lot more minerals from the soil,
Yes.
and therefore is more higher value in nutrition. But of course, at the moment, the yield is not as good as the normal rice yet, but they are increasing the yield. That's what his main work is. The original DNA of that seawater tolerance rice is actually a very accidental discovery by him when he was very young. And then he see that there is a rice growing in salt water, So he take that plant and then continuously develop it to increase its yield, etc. So this is 60 years work. I think he is now around 90. I don't know whether this one is the latest of his photo or not. Okay, China is still not self-sustainable in terms of rice, wheat, and corn. It imports about 10% of its annual consumption from the rest of the world. But most of the import is not for human consumption. We import them for feeding the animals. Okay, this is the final slide before we go into discussion. Again, this is a normal meal when you have a friend coming, okay, in a restaurant. So Chinese usually order for a table of 12 30 something dishes, usually 3 dishes per person, which is too much. So China is now embarking on the consumption reduction, asking people to finish everything you eat on the table. If you can't eat them, or bring it home, don't waste it. So they are now entering into a no food is wasted campaign.
Yes.
I think that is a bit late, but anyway, it's better late than never.
But Albert, you would see a similar banquet at Chinese restaurants here in Melbourne, and of course, you and I have had similar banquets in the past.
Yeah. Well, if our COVID-19 is overcome in the later part of the year, if we can have our last meeting, we probably will go to the hot pot restaurant as a last session.
Good.
We anyone who have been there last year? Is that last year?
Yeah, I went with you last year.
Yeah. You would like to do that if we have our conditions get back to normal?
So where is that place?
Good.
We have that in where's that? That's the
Glen Waverley.
Grand Waverley. Grand
Waverley. How do you get there?
By train.
We can carpool if we like.
It's on Springvale Road.
Yeah. Along Springvale Road. Well,
Albert, I also suggested there is a Uyghur restaurant in Box Hill.
Yeah. I haven't tried that myself yet.
Sorry?
I haven't tried it myself yet.
No, I've suggested it to you. When we were allowed to eat in restaurants, it was my favourite restaurant.
Yep, we'll.
Very interesting food. Of course, it's called Dolan if you want to look it up.
Yeah.
On the net. But the food, although it's part of China, it's on the Silk Road, and the food is a fascinating mix of Chinese and Turkish food.
Yeah.
Uyghur food.
Uyghur.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
So we
has anybody else been to Dolan?
No, I haven't.
No, but my favorite Chinese restaurant is the first one that I found, which actually had the menu written in Chinese simple characters for the first time, because I learned all the names of all the foods in Chinese. And I come back here and it's all in English. I don't know what's what.
Most Chinese restaurants, you have English and Mandarin.
Yeah, but most of them are Cantonese and Hong Kong and Taiwan Chinese, not simple Chinese.
We have more mainland Chinese restaurant coming into Melbourne these days. If we talk about, say, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it's mainly Cantonese food. the Hong Kong food, the yum cha, etc. But now they are much more varied. We have a lot of different Chinese cuisine families coming. The Chinese food fall into different cuisine families.
Yes.
Cantonese is definitely one of them, and we have also the Hangzhou region. There's
8 different ones, isn't there?
Yeah, there's about 8 different families of cuisines, and they're vastly different backgrounds as well as taste. So
Because when I was growing up, every suburb had its Chinese restaurant, which was run by the descendants of gold rush
miners,
Chinese.
yeah.
Yes, and the food was what the Chinese thought the Australians wanted.
Yeah, Australian Chinese food, yeah.
Yes.
We need to survive in the Western culture, and therefore we have to adopt to the Western taste.
Fair enough.
But anyway, that is what my
I
presentation.
haven't seen a really genuine Chinese restaurant in Forest Hill, and I know only of one in Vermont South.
I am not a very good discoverer of this as well, so I have to ask my friends.
I must admit I do eat a lot of Chinese food. The two areas where I normally eat are either Victoria Street, Abbotsford, or in Box Hill.
Yep. Box Hill has quite a bit of Chinese restaurants. Yeah.
I must tell you something, if I'm allowed to take a moment. I'm very sentimental today, because today is the day, the 8th anniversary of when I arrived home after 20 years in China.
Wow.
All right.
And it,
Wow.
yeah, I had my holiday planned this year to go and visit my friends once more, and of course that was cut to pieces. And yeah, we don't know when we're going to get there. It might have been another 2 years.
You're obviously working in China. Who did you work for?
I was there as a teacher. I worked in quite a number of schools. Yeah.
Right.
At that stage, you really weren't accepted in any university or school for more than 2 years, and they just wanted to move you on.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
The last 6 years, I taught children in my own home, and as long as I had no more than 10 per class, I was a tutor. If I had 11, or if I rented a room or a flat somewhere, then I was a teacher. Then I had school and I had to be registered. So doing it in my own home, yeah.
So the limit is 6.
Huh?
The limit is 6.
And where were you based?
I spent most of my time in Zhangzhou in Henan province.
Hold on.
Henan, yeah.
How do you find the food there?
Okay, when I first went to China, I was sick every time I ate anything that had hot spices on it.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I left China, I couldn't eat anything unless it was hot. And
You're like me. I hardly
cook,
have a meal without chili.
I cook here at home, and most of my stuff is, pretty hot.
Good.
So how do you find the children there?
Children are children. It depends on how you teach them. I mean, we're looking at all these slides today.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't knock it, because there's great progress going on, but it's done under a dictatorship, and you don't have a choice. You do as you're told.
Yeah.
If China was a free country, it would develop still develop, but it would develop in a different way altogether.
Oh, yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Yes.
A lot of people will compare things in Australia with China. For example, the trains and the fast rail and all that sort of stuff. Listen, they couldn't get away with it here. I mean, they just come in and they say, we're building a train. Whoop, down go the houses. Where are we going to live? If you find a way, that's your problem, not ours.
And like the Three Gorges Dam.
Yeah. The Three Gorges
Yeah,
Dam, I think
I
they
was
moved
there.
3 million people at least.
I went there before the dam was built.
Yes.
Okay, so I will.
Albert, were they looked after with the Three Gorges, the ones that had to relocate?
Yes, they are given new residence in higher place, and given new residence means a new building.
It's a bit like when they built the Hume Dam on the Murray River and Tallangatta was flooded. And they
Yeah.
had to replace all the people up.
Reside.
We
Reside.
settled.
The people on the top of the hills, though, weren't relocated. And what they're having now is the rising water into the hills. Their houses are beginning to crack and to fall apart.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
They
Come
haven't
here.
been offered any reimbursement for the damage.
You were saying about Tallangatta, exactly the same thing happened at the township of Eildon when the Eildon Dam was built. And about, probably 25 years ago, there was a drought. And a group of us went up and could see in the dam where there was normally water, you could see the former roads, you could see former buildings, etc. It was absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
Okay, so that's for today.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
We'll look forward to seeing you next week, and thank
Yep.
you again, Albert.
Yeah, same time
And
next
everyone
week
for their
again.
Thank you, Albert.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
okay.
Albert. Thank
Okay.
you.
Albert, is
And-
there an easy way of keeping that link so that it doesn't? I mean, if I leave it in my email, it'll end up right down the road somewhere in my inbox. Is there any way of keeping that?
What kind of
link?
email system you use? Now, if you are using Gmail, you can star it. Put a star on it, and then you will stay
Flag
on.
it.
Yeah.
Flag.
Or put it in a folder. Create some folders.
Create a folder. Thank you. That's what I'll do. I'll create a folder.
Okay.
Or the third option is to put it on the calendar, and it comes up each week at the due time, and you press on the calendar.
Yep.
Yeah, except that doesn't work for my system.
Anyway,
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay.
everyone.
Now,
Nice to
again,
meet you.
is there anyone wanting the handouts?
Thanks, Albert, for all the work.
If you want handouts, let me know, and then I will send out the handouts to you.
Yes, please, Albert.
Okay, I will send out the handouts through the email system of Luna Wedding.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
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 Have a good week. Bye,
You too.
everyone.
Bye,
Okay,
everyone.
bye-bye.